Hey guys, so I'm always keeping an eye out for the perfect EDC knife, if there is such a thing. I want to share with you in this video what my new EDC is. Based on the title of this video, you probably already know what that is, the Benchmade Bugout. This guy right here. So let's talk real quick how I came to try this as my new EDC. I'm going to show you some of my other knives in this video as well. So I've carried a pocket knife since grade school. I grew up watching MacGyver. That was like my inspiration that started me off down the path of always carrying a pocket knife. My parents got me a Swiss Army knife, very similar to this guy here, and I carried it everywhere with me as a kid, including school. I even sharpened my teacher's pocket knife. I don't think you'd be able to do that today, to be honest. So yeah, different times. I'd like to think that knives are like surfboards. You can't have too many, and each one can be used for a different situation. So different surfboard for different wave conditions, different knives for different cutting applications. So fast forward to present day, pocket knives have iterated since I was a kid. I've had many different knives since that first Swiss Army knife, and here's my current collection, not to mention I've lost a few EDC knives along the way. My EDC knife for the last 7 years has been the Spyderco Cat, this guy here. You can also check out that review on my channel. I love this knife. I love the spider hole. This knife is the perfect size for EDC. It's a unique looking knife, just like all Spyderco knives. They just look a certain way. When you look at a knife and you see that hole, you immediately think Spyderco. So my requirements for a new knife was it had to have a longer blade than my Spyderco Cat, be thin, able to open and close with one hand, lightweight, with a tip-up pocket carry, like this. I personally don't like the tip-down pocket carry knives because, well, it's just easier to manipulate, or it feels more natural when deploying a knife from your pocket. You don't have to rotate the knife after removing it from your pocket, and then you gotta flip it around, and then anyways, it's just a bit more of a pain when it's tipped down, kind of like this guy here. So enter the Benchmade Bugout. After lots of research and combing through different websites and YouTube videos, it was down to this and the Spyderco Paramilitary 3. I ended up going with the Bugout mainly because it's really light, and honestly, I've never owned a Benchmade, so the novelty kind of sold me on it too, so I wanted to give it a try. I work in an office, so I don't need a hard use knife, and I already have one anyways, the Emerson, where do I have it? Right here, the Emerson CQC10. This thing is a beast of a knife. I love how flat it is when it's in your pocket for such a large knife. It's all business, but honestly, it's not something that is useful for me as an EDC, especially the thickness of the blade, the chisel grind. It's just not good for like my application, for what I need. As an aside, I like to show you two knives as well, just because of their coolness factor. So this is a beautiful fixed blade Carver cutlery knife. I thought about doing a separate video on this knife, but I just never got around to it. This is hand forged by Murray Carter with two different steels. The spine is a softer steel than the edge. And mostly this is a neck knife, and it's good for when you're out in the woods hiking. It's not something that I would carry around with me as an EDC. Also, did I mention how beautiful this knife is? Just look at it. I love the finish and the look of the blade. It's a piece of art. Check out his YouTube channel as well. I'll link it below in the description. So at the other end of the spectrum, the other knife is this. It's a Chinese-made flipper that I got off Amazon for 17 bucks. Canadian, of course. There are a few variations and brands that this similar knife comes in, but I'm sure they all come from the same factory in China. It's a very novel, low quality knife. There is no designation for the type of steel, so it's some sort of, I don't know, mystery steel. I believe it's stainless. It's got a windshield breaking point and also a seatbelt cutter. And also it's super heavy. Like, this thing is dense. Like, when it's in your pocket, you know it's in your pocket. In my search for another EDC, I came across this, and hey, for 17 bucks, I had to order it just to see what it was like. And to be honest, I don't know, it's worth it just for the cool factor. So that's that guy there. Anyways, back to the Bugout. What I like about this knife is it's a deep pocket carry, so the clip is reversible. It's got a thin, flat ground drop point blade, and it holds an edge really well, with the blade material being S30V super steel. I've sharpened it with Waterstones, and it seems easy enough to maintain. Some people say it's a little hard to sharpen this type of steel, but so far I haven't had any issues. I did a bunch of test cutting in regular usage over the last month, and the edge retention is excellent. I was unsure how well the S30V blade steel would perform, and overall I am very impressed. Like I said, needing to only sharpen it once on my Japanese Waterstones. Now, compared to my Spyderco Cat that has 440C as the blade steel, the S30V is noticeably better. Although the 440C sharpens easily, it does dull a lot quicker. Here's a real up close and personal look at the blade after a bunch of cutting. Looks pretty good. I can open and close it with one hand with the thumb knob, or flick it open and close with the axis lock. So the action is really nice and smooth. Yeah, the pivot on it, nice and smooth, but I have seen in some reviews that the fit and action aren't always perfect. Maybe Benchmade has improved their QC process. Certainly this one seems okay. Also, it's got that, really cool playability factor, although that's not really important in a knife, because it's a knife, but, it adds to the experience of owning a knife like this. I should mention that you can't flick it open or close unless you engage the axis lock. So flicking it open with centrifugal force without engaging some type of other action is very important for compliance with Canadian knife laws, so at least that's good. So you gotta pull down on the axis lock before you can flip it open. Alright, after the video, I've since tightened up the pivot so that way you can't, even with pulling back on the axis lock, you can't use centrifugal force to swing the blade open to comply with Canadian knife laws, just in case. You can still operate the pivot to open the blade, pull back on the axis lock, and do a one-handed close. So I can still operate it all with one hand, you just can't swing it open anymore. Other thing is, it's blue in color. So what's not to like unless you don't like the color blue? It's just got a really coolness to it for that color. It's really unique looking. The handle is minimal with some jimping for your thumb, texturing on both sides of the handle, and it's got a lanyard hole as well. That's a fairly large size. Oh, and lastly, did I mention it's light? I was expecting this to be minimal, but when I finally got to hold it, it is like crazy light. And that's mostly due to the fact that there's no metal liners in this. It's just two pieces of plastic or nylon, or at least what I assume to be nylon for the scales. And it's all just built together with just the action being metal for the pivot point and the axis lock. And then just some metal hardware and the clip. Now, just a few small things that I don't like. And it took me a while to get used to the axis lock. Now that I have used it a few weeks, I like it, but I still don't think I like it as much as, say, something like a liner lock, like this. Because it's just something maybe I'm a little more used to. But the axis lock is strong. There have been some concerns about durability of the handle because there is no liner. There is no metal liner, it's just plastic. but for me, I'd rather forego a little bit of durability for the lightness. So to me, it's a good trade-off. The other thing is this knife is expensive. Before tax, it's 170 Canadian dollars. You can buy 10 of these knives for the price of one of these knives. So you're paying a premium for that little butterfly. But these are just a few small little things. Certainly the pros far outweigh the cons in my humble opinion. And honestly, I'll probably be switching back and forth between the Benchmade Bugout and the Spyderco Cat. You know, I just still love the good old Spyderco. This thing has just been a great knife for the last 7 years. I love it. You know, when you open and close it, it's just got that beautiful sound. The action is smooth. It wasn't that expensive. I think it was like $70 Canadian. You know, just a great knife. It is a little heavier than this knife here for being a little smaller, but you barely notice it. It's so small anyway. And I love the pocket clip on it. So yeah, probably still will go back to that. Well, that's my new EDC. Hope you enjoyed this video. Subscribe, hit the bell icon, you know all that stuff. Until the next video, I will see you guys again. Thanks for watching.